Evening, everyone. This is a lesson in making sure you press the go live button rather than just talk to yourself for the first 5 minutes. So apologies for that. You missed out on some absolutely belting TA. And yeah, I've just been chatting to myself for the last 5 minutes. For those of you that watch this actually on the recording, you're going to just have to watch what I've said for the first time again, or maybe I'll just cut it out. But here we are. Okay, today, what are we going to talk about? I've kind of forgotten how I phrased it before, and I suppose it doesn't necessarily matter. We are going to have a look at lunar cycles a little bit into this call. Every month, we kind of, I certainly have a bit of a laugh and a joke about people predicting Bitcoin's price action from it. But given it was a new moon on Sunday and we saw the markets dump, we started talking about it again in Discord. And I said that I would actually go and have that in-depth look within it. So we'll have a look at exactly what the lunar cycles are, why they may affect trading prices, etc. And then we can have a look at what's happened in the past and go from there. Outside of that, we'll cover very briefly just some headlines, some news that's happened over the last few days. Then we'll get into Bitcoin's price action. Then we'll get into altcoins and any questions that you may have. Without any further ado, though, I'm going to just jump straight into it, since I've already wasted 5 minutes of everybody's time. So as we can see, Bitcoin on the 3-day time frame, I'll just blow it up to look a little bit bigger for everybody on the charts. That 117,000 resistance level right now, it really is a bit of a magnet. Unfortunately, also a rejection point for Bitcoin's price. And we've sort of seen over the last week that climb out of 109,000 all the way to 117, and then a very clear rejection from that. I mean, we'll go into further TA later on, but I would say that, the bets right now is probably that we will look to be retesting that 109,500 level before a decision is going to be made. Don't worry about it, though. I mean, we are just ranging. This is a 3-day time frame. We're just ranging. Last month and a half, we've just been moving sideways between these two levels. It can feel quite difficult, I accept, because it's sort of an $8,000 band between those. And of course, that has wider implications on the altcoin market. But that being said, we have bounced from that level, the last 4 times that we've gone and hit it. So we just need to sort of be a bit patient, wait to see how that comes, and for the market to move. In terms of sort of that move down, we'll have a look at how we're performing on the month. We are ever so slightly up. Everyone was talking about September being a bad month, but we'll see where it is. But for me, even if we dip into sort of the, 108, 107, 106,000, it's that 101 or 102,000, shall we say, level that I'd really be looking at as sort of need to start to have some concerns, because the 50 EMA on the weekly time frame is starting to get to that level. So certainly something there for us to have a look at. We have a look at Bitcoin dominance, and you'll now see that I have been talking without you guys because I was having a look at some options here. First option, I might as well discuss. Bitcoin's kind of stalled. Bitcoin dominance, it's kind of stalled in its falling. We had that nice waterfall effect from down here. But then there's 2 options that I think we're currently studying at the moment. On the, the one that I've already drawn out, which is what I ended with last time, it's potential double bottom for a move back up, maybe retesting that % range. It's not really what we want to see, given that our portfolios still have quite a considerable amount of altcoins within them. And so let me just get rid of these. Can't delete all because I delete everything off all the charts. But the other option, I would say probably the more likely option, is that what we've had that sort of shock and that massive fall. And it is a big fall that we've had there. And we're just kind of pooling here, waiting for that sort of next leg back down. That's obviously what we want to see. That's going to help our alt bags move quite nicely. I'm interested to see how this final candle plays out, because Bitcoin dominance did actually move back up yesterday to around about 59%. But today's price action has actually brought that one back down. Be interesting to see how this closes in the next day and a half, whether or not this is a fairly decent high test in a falling market, giving us some sort of confirmation that we might be moving back down. But of course, we just have to wait and see how that one plays out. Moving on to total 2, I've almost caught up with where I was. Total 2, there's a little bit of a double top that we can kind of see in and around the all-time high of 1.74 trillion. and that's kind of played out quite nicely. We came down to the previous support of 1.61 trillion, but we've actually lost that. And what I was talking about was the next area that I'd be sort of looking at was about 1.55. Actually, that's what we came and hit over the weekend, and we have had a fairly decent bounce from that one. So for me, we're stuck in between 1.54 and 1.61 trillion. I think we just have to wait to see how Bitcoin kind of reacts in terms of how that's going to move. Don't get too worried if we do head back down to 1.54 trillion. I know it's going to hurt your actual individual altcoin, but just look at the amount of candles that it has bounced off that level. It's probably about 1.53 actually. We have not lost it, significantly. Since we broke through beginning of August, so a couple of months worth of meandering in and around and above that level, fairly decent. Okay, I'm caught up. Let's try and I will say evening all now that I've actually got back. We're looking at BitTensor on the 3-day time frame, and for me, it's what I will say is we're at the bottom of this yellow channel, which for the last 6 months we have found bounces from. So don't fear too much. We've ridden it down here. And I think I mentioned in Discord, I have actually bought back into BitTensor at this level. I'll reevaluate if we start to lose this yellow line. But we can kind of see, these white lines, trend lines that I've had on the charts for months, just really playing into effect. And the bounce from here, we've come back, we've hit that level 370, and we've rejected from it, continuing to make a lower high after lower high after lower high, and actually kind of lower low after lower low as well. We've got a day and a half of this candle to move back up, but we really need to see it clearing the Gandalf line, $315, so we can kind of say at least we're not continuing to make lower lows. But I just, the chart is just telling me it's not looking particularly healthy at the moment. BitTensor is struggling against a lot of other altcoins. Whether that is being manipulated and suppressed or just there's a lack of interest, I'm not here necessarily to comment. I'm just looking at the chart point of view. Not a particularly good picture for us right now. And again, I'll show you on the charts later, but previously you've seen it at like 430, 400. My sort of, if we don't clear these, we have to get out. I now have to revise that line down to 360. That's the next level. We've got to show some strength and actually get through, create those new higher highs. And until we do that, we're just getting beaten around the head, unfortunately. So yeah. Right, let's leave that there. What I will say again, if you've got any questions, put them in the chat. I think everyone is there. Sorry, Kerry, there isn't a not sure option on the poll, but we'll have a look at that a little bit later on. I might have been a little bit facetious with that poll, just because obviously I already have my opinion now after having a look at it. Right, let's have a look at some headline news that people are talking about. FTX, they're going to unlock some more of the customers' recovered funds. 1.6 billion is going to be distributed to creditors starting next week. There's a lot of people getting very excited because look, another 1.6 billion ready to enter the market and just to be hoovered up into God knows what. You and I all know 1.6 billion is a drop in the ocean. We're talking about a total market cap at the moment of 4 trillion. So, it's nothing compared to what's in there. And even if all 100% of that goes in, for me, it's not really going to make too much of a dent. The other thing is that actually FTX have already done 2 payments. We've done one back in May of about 5 billion, one back in February of this year of about 1.2 trillion. So we're already 6.2 billion into the market. And, I've brought it up here. You can actually kind of see that these are the circles is where they've been released. In February, we had a sell-off immediately afterwards. I'm not saying there was a lot of talk about tariffs in and around there, so I'm not saying that was the cause of it, but it didn't exactly give too much of an uplift to the market. And similarly in May, we had a little bit of a bump, but ultimately the market rolled over before finding some recovery, but we kept on making lower lows until June before we saw that move up. So it hasn't in the 2 previous occasions really brought that much excitement to the market. And for me, this is just a headline that's going to try and entice some sort of positive sentiment because people know how bad things were with FTX, and the fact that money's getting unlocked and can be sloshed back in seems like a good story, but I'm not necessarily buying it just yet. Then we start to see some of these other ones as well, you know, sort of Bitcoin showing signs of cycle exhaustion as BTC price tumbles to 112. I would hardly call it a tumble. You know, we have fallen. We were 117 and we fell to 112. A what? 3.5–4% drop. Not exactly a tumble. But what I do find quite interesting from this article is the amount of long liquidations that fall from 117 to 112 actually took out. It's $1.6 billion worth in longs. I know I just used 1.6 billion in the last story, but I assure you they are the two figures there. And if we have a look here, you can kind of see it was the largest day of long liquidations for the entire year. So I think, you know, the market was just too greedy. The market was just getting really wrapped up in, you know, we've had rate cuts. September hasn't been as bearish as September as everyone has thought. Market's getting very excited, and then bang, market makers are gonna make us pay for it, and they move the price down, and we get wiped out. I think it's actually 1.5 billion on this chart here, but who's counting that extra 100 million between friends? But yeah, the biggest day of liquidations of the year. I know this only goes back to the 27th of March, but I can assure you the data backs all of that up. So, you know, interesting to see what we had there. But again, just sort of reiterating that actually, maybe we just needed that sort of pullback. And as I mentioned right back at the beginning, you know, we're just falling within a range. And the fact that an $8,000 range here can accumulate $1.6 billion worth of liquidations, because we're that greedy, probably just shows you that, you know, we do need to just be a bit cautious with where things are going there. But, you know, we've wiped it out now, and that's exactly what we needed to happen so that we can build from that position, take it up. And, you know, we'll go into the TA later, but I don't think this is necessarily a point in which we're going to turn around. I think there's still a little bit more to squeeze out on the way back down before we then take that move. But anyway, what was interesting, and I think this just shows you that it was very deliberately targeted with crypto market makers, was, I know gold has moved down today, but yesterday gold made an all-time high, okay? 3,000, just under 3,800. The NASDAQ yesterday made an all-time high. The S&P yesterday made an all-time high. Yes, okay, they have corrected today, but in the day that crypto just fell away, everything else moved up nicely. So I think this was not really a reaction to any economic situation that we find ourselves in. It was more just a calculated move by market makers just to try and offset the enthusiasm that we currently had within the market. Well, we'll have a chat about the structure of the traditional markets a little bit later on, but there is that there. And then this dropped yesterday. I don't think this potentially got the fanfare that I was actually expecting, because US lawmakers have written to the SEC to effectively say, look, we want the SEC to approve cryptocurrency exposure to pension funds, the 401k as they're called in America, and to open that up. The word on the street, or on the hill, I suppose, is that they're going to try and enact this by the end of this year, which sounds fantastic. And obviously it's going to open up to, I think there's something in the article, like potential $12 trillion worth of investments. I can't see if I can, maybe it's $9 trillion worth. Not saying that crypto is going to get all of that, but that's how much is sloshing around. So, you know, could open up to a whole host of further institutional fund investments. So yeah, a positive move forward. I do have to say that, you know, part of me is thinking, are we coming towards the end of the 4-year cycle, which I've talked about for the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to kind of leave it there. But, you know, opening the floodgates to investment sites kind of feels like the move that, you know, would happen just as they're about to dump it on those poor pension people. That being said, you know, we've had that conversation for the last 2 years with the opening of the ETFs, and all we've done is make higher highs. But, you know, just starting to, you know, as a 4-year cycle believer, starting to just continue to build that picture of, you know, are things getting too good to be true? And when are we going to realize that we're actually stood in boiling water? So these kind of things I kind of just take in, not necessarily with a pinch of salt, because I'm sure it's going to happen, but just sort of like a little bit of a you know, hairs on the back of your hand sort of standing up. You've also got things like ETNs being available from next month in the UK, which again open up to even more retail or institutions. And that's the kind of thing that, you know, is going to hopefully try and drive hype. We're going to get into that sort of fevered kind of pitch, and it may well cause those legs up, absolutely. But then we just get caught in that sort of pandemonium behind it all. Anyway, something to certainly look out for. And then I tell you what, crypto Twitter is undefeated in trying to get as much hype out of anything that they possibly can. I mean, most of you probably would have seen this if you've been on crypto Twitter for the last couple of days now. You know, posts like this, massive political news coming for Bitcoin Tuesday that will reshape the trajectory of Bitcoin politics. This will be a defining moment. Well, it's not what I just talked about, because that came out yesterday, which was Monday. Everyone was expecting Donald Trump to speak today to make some massive Bitcoin announcement. Now, he did speak at the UN. It had absolutely zero to do with Bitcoin. I can't rule out that in the next few hours, Donald Trump may actually make some announcement, but everyone was kind of focused on, he was going to have a dig at the UN, and somewhere within there, he was going to mention Bitcoin or talk about, you know, cryptocurrencies. And that didn't happen in the UN discussion. But it didn't stop people from getting excited. And trust me, Altcoin Gordon, I mean, yes, he's good at this type. He was one of absolutely many that I could sort of have put on here. We're just trying to hype up this announcement. And it is just, we've got to kind of remind ourselves that crypto Twitter is just there to try and drive hype. They will find a story out of absolutely nothing. Apparently this person spoke to a source at the White House to say that there was a huge announcement. Now, again, maybe there is, but we certainly didn't see it back then. And then again, the White House announcement could be bigger than I thought. So within just a couple of hours, just trying to drive that hype up there. And it just turned out to be an absolutely damn squid. What was interesting is Chairman Powell was speaking after Donald Trump did. And I didn't get time to really watch it or listen to it because I was obviously prepping for the call. But what I did find quite interesting was some of the sound bites that were coming out from it was his views on the job data, maybe not being as strong as Trump would have liked. Inflation still being quite a sticky situation. But this one here about interest rate stance is slightly modest, still modestly restrictive, even after last week's cut. So kind of opening the door to suggest that we may see further cuts this year. And it was after this discussion, it was after Powell took the stage, that what we actually saw, oops, if I can put it on the hourly. This is when Powell spoke. He spoke at 10 to 6 UK time, 6 o'clock. That's when Bitcoin's price started to fall a little bit. So obviously Bitcoin's, or the markets reacted more to what Powell had to say than what Trump was talking about, him slagging off the UN. And if we go on to, you know, the NASDAQ, etc., similar kind of thing. That came from Powell. So it seems like Powell's information was far more important than Donald Trump's. I am actually, just whilst we're here, let's just go on to Forex calendar. Let's see. No, it doesn't have Trump speaking again. So this was Trump speaking today at the UN. Then it was Powell. And we've got Trump speaking to, oh, wait a second. So Trump's is actually technically speaking, he is technically speaking in the US today, because this is 12:20 a.m. UK time. But it's at the UN reception dinner. It's not like he has. It'd be interesting to see what he says. Maybe that is what people are holding on to. Maybe I have to check myself there. I kind of thought that was tomorrow, but actually it's tomorrow UK time. Anyway, okay, fine. We'll just have to wait and see. Maybe we'll be politely corrected. Right, let's have a look at some Bitcoin stuff, shall we? Let's just get back onto the 12-hour, and let's just have a look at where we are. And it's a bit down there. Okay, so what happened last week? Exactly what we thought might happen. We had this long liquidation area up here. We went up, we took it, and then we removed it straight back down. So there was obviously a lot of short liquidations up here, and then this move that we had over the past few days, that's the 1.6 billion. So everyone must have got super excited, started going longs, building these up, but then it just got completely cleaned out and wiped through. Interesting to see. We do find ourselves kind of sat in no man's land between the new, or the one of them's new, one of them's not, build up area. So we've got 107 to 106.5. That's kind of just the remnants of this. It was higher, it was up here, but it got only partially eaten into. So we've got the remnants of that there, which again is about $4,000 away from current price action. And then we've got this 18,000, which, yes, you know, I do think that gets revisited. But between now and then, you know, we just got this level of resistance to kind of get through. And I think that's a big level to get through. So whether or not we make it through that, we'll have to wait and see what Donald has to say, I suppose. But just looking at it from a chart point of view, I think that, you know, we're going to head back up here. Or if we should say, should we head back up here? Unless we're seeing vector candles galore and some decent volume there, we're probably just going to come bashing back into this. It has been a hell of a support and resistance level in the past, which ties in with the range that we were looking at back here. So it kind of all makes sense, really. Only other point really to note is just remember this figure here, the level 2 on the fib. It's 109,680. So let's just call it 109,500. Sort of that middle of the range for cash as we're doing things there. And when we look on the sort of the bigger picture chart, should we need to panic? Not really. I don't think. Yes, okay, we have not made that new all-time high since, you know, for a month and a half now. But we come back down, we hit the 20 EMA, we bounced back from it, ran into resistance, and we potentially just got that move back down. Sorry, we are on the weekly time frame here. To that 20 EMA, which, you know, we put that line in there, and what is it? It's 109,723. I just told you to remember that number, 109,680. So $50 between friends. But also, and this is getting messy, I appreciate, but look at this level here, 109,614. So again, that's sort of 109,000 and a half. That's support and resistance. So we got support and resistance at the lower band of a range that we've been operating in, which happens to tie in with a fib level, which has gone back for years. You know, you've seen me draw those fibs before. And it also ties in with the 20 EMA on the weekly time frame. In a bull market, a fairly good position to retest and bounce from that one. So again, I just feel that the magnets are probably there for us to take it. What I would say is look where the 50 EMA is. The 50 EMA currently sitting at 98,000, sorry, and that is moving up. We're getting closer to that. Obviously, we can retest it, and we have seen in the past that you can actually break through it. What we don't want to see are closes below it, okay? Close, and then let's just say close below it. We want to see maybe a week or two data. We want to get back up before then. That's not too far away now, but, you know, we have seen it happen before, so don't necessarily worry if it is. We lose that 100 level, that 100K level I talked about back here. We're getting dangerously close to that 50 EMA. So that's why I think 100 level, psychological level. By the time we get to there, hopefully the 50 EMA is going to be up there. Then we're going to be battling. What do I need us to see happen? You know, we have had a very nice run up, you know, over this time. And within that time, we have seen, you know, sort of bull flags, so sort of descending channels before that next leg up. So that's fine for us to be in a descending level at the moment. You know, I can accept, if I can find my pen, you know, I can accept we haven't cleared that and we're kind of moving in this direction. That's fine. However, you know, one, we can lose that level. I'd like to see us bounce on that level. But two, if we do bounce on it, say we do bounce on this 109,500 level, we move up. In my opinion, we've got to break this channel. We've got to break that channel. And the moment we do, for me, I think I would like to say we've got to get a new all-time high. I mean, that's just, you know, easy. But I want to see us at least get to that 120,000. Get to where these bodies have been. Actually having that. Don't just break it and then start to meander there on sort of low volume. I want to see us get through with volume and retest it. Show that we've still got some legs still within this market. And ultimately we can move back up there. But, you know, as I say, big picture, there's nothing to suggest that we're not still in a bull market. We're above the key levels that we need to be. We're just in a bit of a range. And as I mentioned, you know, last time we talked about end of bull runs, we're not seeing that sharp waterfall off. We're not seeing big sudden drops saying, right, everyone's trying to get out. Well, yes, we've made an all-time high, and then we've just moved left for 6 weeks. That hasn't happened at the end of previous cycles, but four-year cycle believers will be telling you we're getting close. We're a month or two out from that. And again, I don't want to rehash what we talked about last week, but just being a month or two out doesn't mean there's not plenty of opportunity for strong moves to go up. So yeah. Okay. Couple of other little websites or what have you before we move into talking about lunar cycles. So alt season, we have actually dropped back out of the alt season category. Got to be above 75%. And I'll die on that hill that when we get above that level, we burn bright, but we burn fast. And we didn't stay above it too long. We have come back down. Maybe we're just trying to catch our breath for another move up there. But last couple of days, we have been down there. We can kind of see Bitcoin is, it's still being outperformed by 30 of the top 50. But there's, 15 or so, 12 that unfortunately are down here. Obviously, the one we're most interested in is BitTensor the last 90 days, down 6% from where it was 90 days ago. Not looking so good. Right. Here we are, monthlies. This time next week will be the end of September, so we'll give it a proper look at then. But September is currently green. We were all thinking that we were going to see a red month here. Historically, we normally do. It's 4% up. So, as bad as this last 2 days may have been for your portfolios or any longs that you have on, as long as you've got correct risk management, we're actually doing all right. We're doing pretty healthy. And we are then moving into the strongest month of the crypto cycle, or certainly Bitcoin's October, Halloween rallies, all of that kind of stuff. Very positive month October usually is, but we'll look more into that next month. In terms of the ETFs, BlackRock, well, I was about to say BlackRock's still buying. They didn't buy anything yesterday, but they're not selling, I think is the point. Yes, yesterday we saw others sell. Nobody bought. It were only sales. So we did see 363 million be sold through the Bitcoin ETF, but over the last 3 weeks, still very healthily, very strong up in that position. And then I'm trying not to believe everything that I see in crypto Twitter, but the reality of it is we have seen gold absolutely fly. Gold here on the monthly time frame, just parabolically up since the beginning of 2024. But this last month, look, 2 months ago even, we were beginning of August, we were at 3,200. We're now at 3,800. In the space of 60 days, 50 days even, gone up nearly 20%. And for gold, that is a hell of a move there. But there is something to be said that gold is a store of value. It's a flight to safety kind of asset. It is moving up. People have always talked about whether or not Bitcoin has that ability to be that safety. But you can kind of see, Bitcoin's price is in the orange, gold is in the yellow, and we're not taking percentages here, but they've generally kind of moved in very similar sort of directions. We go up when gold goes up, we go down when gold goes down. But what this is saying, and I think there is some sort of logic to it, is historically gold has always moved up first, and then it's Bitcoin that's followed a couple of months afterwards. Well, we've had 2 months of gold flying up, and Bitcoin's kind of just been in that range. Are we about to see Bitcoin finally make that big move up? And if history is anything to go by, then the answer is probably yes. And so that's just something that we just need to ultimately keep our eyes on, and just have a look at where things are going. So Erjan's just put, isn't it worrying that gold is rallying so hard? To me, it's showing crash incoming. Well, that is what I was going to get to now, because it's great to see that gold is flying up, as well as stock markets, S&P, even to some extent the Russell. Look, Russell's moved up almost 30% since its April lows. But yeah, gold flying up like this does sort of swell to me that we're going to have some sort of correction. There's almost like a mania phase in gold at the moment. Actually, funnily enough, my father-in-law, not even 10 weeks ago, asked me about how to buy gold and silver because his jeweler had said it was a good thing to invest in. And that just immediately made me think about, do we need to sell? But silver's flying hard too. And so, yeah, I agree with you, Jean, that there probably is a crash coming. I take you back to what I've spoken about for the last couple of weeks in terms of, maybe we've got a couple more months, but actually 2026 is probably going to be a bear market, not just for Bitcoin, but for other financial assets, as we see some sort of correction, potentially recessions, getting those interest rates down, and then we start to see money printers turning on, and however long that takes to get through. That's just kind of what I see. And this, I have a feeling, as excited as we are about this, we will look back at this in 3 or 4 years' time and go, how obvious was this, that was going to be a top soon? We don't know how high it's going to go, but the higher it goes, the more likely we're going to see that crash. And okay, I'm on the linear chart here, so it's not exactly the easiest, but we can try and draw some sort of step trend lines, if we will. I probably should have done it on the on the logarithmic. But what I'm just saying is this kind of angle that we're suddenly at now is incredibly steep. Let's just put that, they're all going to be out of whack now. Yeah, knew that'd be the case. Sorry, I've just changed it to logarithmic. Let's just delete these and try again. There's probably only 2, I suppose, at the moment, but they're still there. That is a hell of a steep angle at the moment, and I suppose we can just go for a breach of significant trend line. Is that time to get out? May well be. Going back to this argument, we should see a pullback as money moves from gold into Bitcoin, but we'll leave that one there. Similarly, Nasdaq. Even if you don't take the tariff crash, that is still an incredibly steep angle for that. But even this one here, and 6 green months in a row, 6 hell of a green months in a row for the Nasdaq there. S&P is probably very similar. It is. So yeah, I think they're just, as I say, the water seems to be boiling around us, but we don't mind it right now because we're trying to squeeze as much of it as we possibly can. That's fine as long as we are aware that we are in boiling water. Don't think we did anything there. Didn't get asked any questions. All right, let's get into some. Oh no, moon cycles. Sorry, I almost went flying past it. So we're going to talk about moon cycles. You're going to have to bear with me because I have actually got some notes on the other screen because you know what? I've only really been looking at this for a little bit. And shout out to Jared in Discord who continually sort of highlights when we've got full moons and new moons and sort of kind of gives us at least some sort of indication that there may be some direction it's going. So what are these lunar cycles? What are these moon cycles? What do they mean for us in trading, and how can we relate to them? They are something that I have been aware of for at least 4 or 5 years, but I will be honest with you, I have just put them in the same sort of category almost as flat earth believers. There's no actual logic behind it. And sort of, obviously I've spent the last 36 hours looking into it, chatting to people about them. Maybe I've given it a little bit of a bad rep. I'll leave you guys to decide that for yourself. But what is it ultimately that we're talking about when we're talking about the lunar cycles? Well, I'm not going to try and, get all sort of cosmology. I'm not going to go down the cosmological route of it all. But ultimately, the moon, okay? So the moon orbits the Earth, thank God for that one. But it does it in a circular motion rather than how the planets orbit the sun in more of an elliptical one. Why am I talking about this? Well, because it's circular, it's pretty much bang on the same amount of time it takes to go from a new moon to a full moon, back to a new moon, while orbiting the Earth. And because of that, there is a cycle that is created. And in crypto, we love, or in trading, we love cycles because, whatever that cycle may be. Now, how long does that take? Well, it takes around about technically it takes 27 days, but because the Earth moves, it's a couple of days you need to add to that. 29 and a half days it takes for the moon to go from a new moon, so that's where you don't see it in the night sky because it's dark, all the way to a full moon, and then go all the way back around to a new moon again. So that's where you get your months from. Basically, you have 12 of those that happen every 354 days, so pretty much every year, every orbit of the Earth around the sun. That's where you get your 12 months from, etc. And that's the moon cycle. You can go into a lot more detail than that, but let's try and keep this talk down as quickly as we can. But why is it important? Well, we have all taught from an early age that the moon impacts the Earth quite a lot. You know, we get tides, we get farmers and agriculture and all of that kind of stuff. Animals reacting to the moon. Well, as humans, we are apparently no different. And as a matter of fact, the position of the moon in the sky is led to believe to have a very psychological impact on ourselves. And I suppose ultimately, what is trading if not just a manifestation of the human psyche at any given moment in time? Whether we are confident in something, underconfident in something, nervous about something, that is then impacted in the decisions that we make in traditional markets. And so whether you want to think of them as smart people, but the people behind lunar cycle trading strategies are effectively trying to put a correlation between the position of the moon and what psychological impact that could have on not just an individual, but on the general population as a whole. So I'm just going to go to my notes and make sure that I've not missed anything there. I don't necessarily think so, but we'll have a look. Now, the moon has like 8 different cycles to it. You know, there's half moons, if you will, there's waning moons. We're not interested in that. In terms of lunar strategy or lunar cycles, we're interested in 2, the new moon and the full moon, okay? And this notes I have had to sort of put down on the screen. Apparently, the new moon symbolizes and creates a mood within the general population of new beginnings, optimism, and an element of risk taken. People feel more motivated, forward looking, and quite looking forward to a fresh start. You can think about that from a trader's point of view as perhaps giving confidence, being a bit more aggressive, willing to take a risk, willing to make that purchase, which ultimately can lead to upward pressure in the market as everyone starts to jump on board with that. Whereas the other side of that, the full moon, I think I might got these the other way around. It's a heightened emotions. You've got some intensity and some tension in and around that. Maybe a bit of restlessness, some insomnia because it's a lot lighter, so you can't sleep as well, leading to erratic behavior. You going in on yourself, perhaps not wanting to be as confident as you previously were. That kind of, in a trader's point of view, might make you a bit more reactive to sort of external stimuli, a bit more fearful and anxious, maybe looking to close trades, etc. So that's kind of the theory, I think, behind all of those. I'm getting there, don't worry. And so there's 2 kind of, what I've seen, 2 kind of strategies, if you will, in terms of lunar cycles. Bobby's put, I'm sure I've seen something saying that BlackRock sold 980 million BTC on the ETFs today. I'll come and have a look at that in a moment. I'll try not to break my thought process. I already have though. So there's 2 kind of strategies there. There's the view of, well, actually utilizing whatever state the moon is in the sky to make a decision there and then on what you want to do with your portfolio, or having a look at it and going, right, well, the moon is a full moon. I'm going to, buy something during the full moon. I'm going to hold it open until the new moon, and then I'm going to sell. And they seem to be the 2 kind of strategies. I'm not really someone that likes to leave trades open for 2 weeks at a time, so I'm certainly not going to be looking at the latter. But what I thought I would do is I'd go back and have a bit of a back test on how well the market has reacted in and around new and full moons. So that's what I've gone and done. And so for those of you that were in Discord, there is an indicator I use. I use it regardless of the moon settings, and it is the market session times. It's by Trade Travel Chill, If you want to have a look at it, it's the one that has 2.8K, but just type in market session times and you'll find it. You select it and it turns out to be this one here. And I use it to show me when the Asian market's open, the UK market, all the gaps, the break boxes, all of that kind of stuff. But in the top, there's moon cycles. And so when you actually turn it on, and you have it all like that, it gives you all the different patterns of the moon. It looks bloody confusing as anything. So what I would recommend is, if you are going to have it on your charts, go back into the settings, moon cycles right at the top. You want to leave the first one ticked, moon cycles, but you want to untick all phases of the moon on the higher time frames, okay? That way, actually all that it displays on your chart is new moons and full moons, making it easier to see. I will say easier because I've got no other indicators on at the moment. So if you have this with others, just because the moon's is positioned quite close to the candles, it can be a bit much to look at. So that's on the daily. Obviously, if you go to lower time frames, it's still going to be there, but now I'm going to have all of the individual ones back on. Go back to the daily, it's just the full moon, the new moon. If you go to the weekly, you lose it completely. So I think the daily is the highest it can go to. Right. What's interesting about this one is the position of the icon actually is going to give us a bit of a clue of what the market should be doing. And what I mean by that is new moon on the top should be like a peak where people are going to sell and sort of move back down. So price action should come down from that. This is marking the top. A new moon, so full moon, is a buying opportunity, so price should be as low as it's going to be there. Now, you don't have to take my word for that. That's just how this indicator was drawn up, just to give you a visual representation of what you're supposed to see. Now, we don't get future postings of it. It only happens, this will just appear the day of, whenever the new moon is, and you can work that out because it's every 29.5 days. But what we can see, and this is what sparked the conversation, is when this printed on Sunday, the market Sunday night absolutely fell away. And so we had proof, potentially, that this worked. So I've kind of gone back and had a look at new moons. I've had a look at full moons, and we just sort of see how well it's done. And I couldn't get any other colors, so you'll have to forgive me here. But if it's got a downwards arrow on this one, then price has moved down. It's got an upwards arrow, price has actually gone and moved up. There are some like no entry signs, if you will, where in my opinion, it's just moved sideways. Now, I've had to use my own judgment on this, and I'm kind of looking for price action to make a move within a day or two of the new moon setting. But you can kind of see the one on Sunday, whatever, new moon, fell away, as we would expect it to. Then back in August, fell away, as we would expect it to. Then back in July, look, I mean, I know it was here, but it did fall away. There's no guarantee on how long it's going to fall for. It's just that initial reaction. So we did see it fall away. Then we go to June and actually did the opposite of what we expected. And it went up. Then we go back to May 25. It went down as we expected. You can kind of get a picture for these. That's in the wrong place. That one went up. This one, so this is it here, this candle. And it kind of just went sideways for 2 days and then up, but then back down. So I've said that didn't really work. This one's in the wrong place as well. That one's gone up, gone down. So there's a bit of a mixed bag, but I think I've said gone down more than I've said anything else. It's certainly gone in the right direction there. But if I just zoom out now onto the weekly time frame, we're going to lose the moons, as I explained, but at least we'll get a picture of what we've actually seen. And for those of you that can see it, my camera's not in the way. I think the camera's even on, maybe it is. Let's see if it is on, actually. There we go. It's back now. You can kind of see over the 2-3 year period that I did this for, it's actually ever so slightly longer. There was 15 of it moving in the right direction, 8 moving it in the wrong direction, and 14 where I don't feel it moved either way. Now, you could go in on a much lower time frame and you could analyze it a little bit better, but for me, it didn't really do much. So that's sort of new moons. Data's kind of saying, yeah, just under 50% of the time, it's going the right way. And I accept that no trading strategy is 100% perfect, but that's just basing it on new moons. What about if we had a look at it from a full moon point of view. Apologies, I did it a different way here and I couldn't be bothered changing it. So if it's a green tick, it means it's gone up. A red cross is not that it's wrong, it just means that it went down, and the circle is just it went sideways. So full moon, we're expecting this to signify bottoms. We know that because the full moon is at the bottom of the chart. And yeah, it went up, so that's right. It went up, so that's right. It went up, so that's right. This time it went down, sideways, sideways, up, sideways, up, 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 sideways, up, sideways, down, sideways, down, up. You kind of get the picture, but I think I've said it up a lot more times than I did previously. And again, when we then zoom that out, we can actually see for full moons a lot more occasions where it's gone in the right direction. 18 times, so definitely over 50% of the time, just basing it on printing of a full moon, price has generally gone up. Seems to be the way that it goes. Now, whether or not you want to try and combine those to be like, right, well, full moons, over 50% of the time, it does go in the right direction. And these circles that are 11, we go on a lower time frame. I just didn't have enough time to do it. We may be able to rule that a lot more of these are ticks and crosses. And I accept that, but just looking at on the daily, I was like, it's gone sideways. I don't think the data's there. So we're just sort of like assuming that, you know, it's a none effect. But if you had made a trade there, in theory, you shouldn't lose anything because it's gone sideways. So yeah, but positive action there. Whether or not you can then ultimately go and combine the two and to get full moons and new moons, remembering that's twice a month, there's an opportunity there for you to do it. We'll have to wait and see. But what this has shown me, I suppose, over the last 36 hours is certainly with full moons, there does seem to be some sort of logic to that. There does seem to be some sort of pattern in play that says, yeah, price has gone up. The issue though is how you close that trade. It's all well and good having a data point for entry, but what's your invalidation? And I think ultimately that's going to have to come down to just, you know, TA. It's going to have to come down to sentiment, fundamentals, whatever. And so for me, I'm how can I put this? I'm certainly not going to be trading it on its own. I think that's probably key. I'm not going to just go out there and go, it's a new moon today, I'm selling everything. Otherwise, similarly, I'm not going to do it. But I may look at it as just sort of, well, it's a cycle, it's cyclical. How does it look within some of the other plays? I don't know. Maybe I have, you know, market. I can't get rid of these now, annoyingly. I tell you, let's just get a clean chart again. Sorry. Clean. Get rid of all the drawings. Got to find it again. That's why I prepare them beforehand. Put it on the daily. Get into here. Okay. This will be worth it, I promise you. So, you know, maybe I could be like, well, wait a second, you know. We've moved down. We've made a bottom. I'm thinking there's a W formation. And look, you know, one, there's a moon here within this. Can you see it? Yeah, you can. There's a full moon here at the bottom, which says, oh, W formation, which moves nicely into a new moon, bringing it back down to get the right-hand side of this W formation. Still don't know if this is playing, but then, oh, look, this new moon, the full moon, sorry, I keep getting the wrong way around, prints here, and it's now looking like a W formation. This could be a good confirmation that that is the right entry position for us to go in, and up we go. And then we're just looking at, you know, standard kind of, okay, well, there's rise one, consolidation, breaking through with a new moon. Oh, good, there's another time to re-enter then, because we've broken through the highs. I don't know if we don't have any EMAs on here to see with vectors, with vector. We've moved, we've made that next move up. Now we're sort of consolidating. Maybe now, you know, I'm waiting for price action to do whatever it's going to do. And then once it breaks that level, if there was a moon there with it, it could be like another confirmation. Maybe you could use it that way, just in whatever trading strategy you have. But I'm certainly not going to be using it on its own. And I just don't have the time or the inclination to trade it, as in I'll just always buy on a full moon and I will sell on a new moon. I didn't go into it, but historically, this article at least suggested it gives you, I think, a 3.3% advantage across the market if you were to do that than just doing it off your TA alone. And it's not just limited to Bitcoin. You know, you can have a look at it from gold, and look at gold here in this range. I mean, there's something to be said about it on gold. In this whole time that it ranged, all the up bits were new moons. Well, okay, it's a bit delayed there, up bit there. And then we did have genuine downward movement on new moons, even within the range. Okay, not that time. So 4 out of the 5 new moons and 5 out of 5 full moons actually moved the right way. So I was just looking at it from Bitcoin's point of view, but perhaps there is something to be said about it as again, as a sort of a confirmation rather than an out and out strategy. But I will try not to mock it too much anymore. How about that? That's about as good as it gets. I don't know if anyone else thinks that they're a bit more convinced within it. Erjan's put, one major issue with this is that we're in a bull phase, so the full moon indicator would play out more often. Yeah, but I'm not. So you're right. But remember, we're not suggesting, you know, this could just, as long as it goes up for 2 days, I'm counting it. Or within 2 days it goes up, and it doesn't have to stay up. That's the whole point. I don't know how long it lasts for, but I think even within this range, it's kind of proven itself there. Anyway, just food for thought. I will keep on digging in on it, and if I change my opinion anyway, I'll let you know. Just going back to Bobby's comment, he was talking about BlackRock apparently sold $1 billion worth of course he's done this. Can I get logged in? I can't remember what it is. No, okay. Sorry. ETF tracker. I think this is. I don't know how up to date this one is in terms of sales. No. Okay. I can't be bothered to log in, and I don't know what that is. I'll have a look afterwards. I'll log in. I'll make a comment on it. That I can do. In case I have to put my password in, why don't I just do it on this screen? Just bear with me. I've started, so I'll finish. And then we'll do a bit of charting. No idea what my password and login details are for this. That's the problem. Oh, there is previous password. Okay, we're in. We're in. Where's my dashboard? Nope. Sorry. Dashboard, there it is. This is a roundabout way. I'm just trying to see transfers. Because if they have sold 980, we should see. Oh, you know what? 19 hours ago. That was yesterday. But they've not said, they might have just moved it. Because this hasn't gone. Normally, what you see is it goes to Coinbase Prime Deposit. That sort of represents the sales. But this doesn't look like it. This may well have just been them moving wallets. I think that's probably what it is. They saw yesterday's data, which again ties in with this data, and there wasn't any sales yesterday for BlackRock. So I don't know where you read it. Probably someone from crypto Twitter getting excited and seeing all of that movement, working out how much it is. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's 15, 16. So, you know, we're talking 4,000. I'm talking 9,000 Bitcoin. So that's probably where someone's got the 980 million from, and just put 2 and 2 together and come up with fish. But I'll try and have a bit of a better dig into that later. Anyway, right, let's get into some of this charting. So where were we from last time? It's on the 4. Let's just put it back onto the daily. I think I did this. Just ignore that for now. So what we had yesterday's price movement, we can kind of see took us through the 50 EMA. Today we had a slight move back up. I bet you when I put this on a lower time frame, that's going to be bouncing off an EMA, and then it's come back down. And as I say, for me, all signs really are pointing towards, well, it was this level here, 109,500, which I think for me is around about here, moving back down. In terms of fibs, let's just have a look. I mean, we're on the 618 right now of this recent move up. So maybe we see that turnaround there. We know how much we like the 618. But that's it. What I would say, and you've heard me talk before, these vectors don't stay. So that's going to get recovered. That's 99.99999% chance that's going to get recovered. I mean, unless we are actually in a full-on bear. But that's where we see that one. We'll drop it down onto a lower time frame. We get rid of all of this now because it's going to be far too messy. And yeah, we can kind of see, can't we? Bitcoin moved up. It fell in some sort of bearish rectangle, I suppose. 10 EMA, and then we dropped back down. But we're still only as low as where we got to the early hours of this morning. So we have been this low. And look, now we're talking 4-hour time frame, but we got the 800 EMA down there, 200 EMA on the daily, well, just under the daily time frame. So a lot of confluence of that 109,500. And as I say, I just think we're going to get that move back down there. And we can kind of see this 800 EMA has helped us out before having some moves up. In terms of, we were trying to do counts last week where we were. And I was sort of saying, W from, colors all wrong. W from here, that's 1. Back down, this would have been 2. And on Friday, I kind of said that we could come all the way down to here, so 111,000, and not really invalidate that. We're getting pretty close to this at the moment. So maybe I've kind of miscounted. Maybe there's a 1. I still can't really see where 2 is. 2, 3 maybe, but where's the M? I'm not sure on the counts on that one. I might have to go even lower time frame. But in terms of what we're seeing at the moment, I mean, we've got even more vector candles here, which we'd probably expect to see recovered. My guess is, though, unless Donald does have something to actually say about crypto, that's probably the path we're going to take for those recoveries. And as we can see at the moment, the 10, the 20, the 50, all moving down. 200 is about to cross the 50 as well. Probably just giving a bit more resistance for any move. It's going to be moving up. We go on to BitTensor on the daily. I think I put so that was that first level at 452. I did have one here. It's because I don't save my charts. Down here at sort of 400, 390. This is it here. Now, what I would say, I think I was trying to draw here is maybe a bit of optimism. I know we popped out of it a little bit, but just generally we've been working down, finding a bottom, and I know maybe we finally find that move and that out there, and we just need a bit more of a squeeze. This is, falling compression. I appreciate it has a flat bottom there, but that's what I would like to see from it. We have lost the Gandalf line. We are ever so slightly below it at the moment. You need to bear that in mind. But in losing the Gandalf line, we've left ourselves with a beautiful vector. And if there's one thing that BitTensor does not leave behind, like any good marine, it doesn't leave a vector behind. Was it the Army Rangers? I don't know. But whoever it is, leave no man behind. That's probably going to get recovered from there. And the reason I got back in was just we were at this bottom live Gandalf line. We were at the 800 EMA on the daily time frame. Seemed like a good place. Look, if we lose, I mean, I probably have to wait till here. We lose that, then I'll have to reconsider. But until then, I've just got to back what we've seen for the past 3 or 4 months for ultimately that move up there. But I'm not overly optimistic. That's the reality. I've shown you the bullish side of it first, but that's the reality. We are just continuing to make lower highs, potentially lower lows. If this 304 close below that today or next couple of days, it's not going to be a good place for us to be in. And you know, we talked about those levels before, but we have to mention it now at the bottom. If we do lose those, you've got a bit of a chunk in and around here. Another one, let's just call it here. Yeah, so you're talking 270 or 225. It's not what people are going to want to hear or see, but you know, there's no guarantee that an alt rally is going to save BitTensor because it hasn't so far. You know, it's one of the worst performers. If we have a look at it year to date, I'm trying to find it. Should have done it the other way around. Where is BitTensor? 66th worst. You know, it's 30% down year to date. I appreciate a lot of them kind of are. But even like let's do the last 90 days. Let's do it this way around. And BitTensor, the top 100, is the 16th worst. So it's not really saving them. Anyway, let's get back into lower time frames. Go on the 4 hour. Let's get rid of some of this stuff here. And I didn't post it in the end, but what I was thinking a couple of hours ago was this doesn't look great. You know, we've had that strong move down. We had a bit bounce up, and I was worried because of the angle. It was going to be a dead cat bounce, and it hasn't lost it aggressively yet. But you can kind of see it's hit the 10 EMA, which it's done. You know, this whole descent, and we have rolled over. Now, I will accept there's a potential here that we form a double bottom, but we need to start moving on that, really, don't we? Because we're right down at the level. We don't really want to see any further falling from that. So it needs to buck up its ideas and get back up there. I want to see it attacking these two within the next sort of 24 hours, really. So we've got no threat of a daily close below previous daily closes. We can try and have that sort of move up there. And then ultimately, I go back to, well, let's clear 350 and this shelf, but up there. And I did post this on Friday in Discord about that double top. So it pretty much played out in terms of distance now. I can grab it. You know, we're you know, that line there is pretty much where price action is. That double top has kind of played out. So hopefully now we can find that double bottom, that reversal, take it back through. It's a bit messy for range counts just down here on the 4 hour. I think we have to go to much lower levels. You know, I know you can say that's an M, but maybe there's some sort of W here. 1. There's only 2 counts really. So yeah, I'm not seeing too much. In terms of some of the other ones, Ethereum, again, you know, after making its all-time high at 5,000, it's just not looked great, but still within a range, a bit like Bitcoin has. Previous low of, well, 4,000 is a level kind of to defend. It's been close to that one. There are a decent amount of vector candles left here. And again, you know, we have not left vector candles behind. So the speed at which that came back down, I can easily see that's getting quite quickly recovered and just getting back within that range. But ultimately for me, we need to get out of that range. Let's just say 4,600 and we can actually start to make a bit of a new high at this level and get back up. That's what we want. The bottom level that I'd be looking at right now is 3,950. That's what needs to be defended if we are going to see any further falling. That was, you know, the cycle high from the previous cycle, all-time high. Oh, sorry, it was this cycle highs sort of resistance point for like a good 2.5 years. So it is a fairly strong one there, but that's what we want to break. It is also on a vector that kind of needs to be reclaimed. In terms of fib levels, we don't know how low this one's gone, and we're still within the range. I don't think it's necessarily worth drawing it unless you wanted to do this one down here. Oops, a bit too far. I've done wick to wick just on the distance. And you can actually see that this has come down perfectly and hit to 0.5, which again, did there. And it's found something. We need to see it climb. 618 is just below that vector zone and just below. Maybe you get to see that wick down. But we can kind of see this 800 EMA is also coming to the 786 at 360. not what we want to see. I want to move on to the daily after I've cleared all this out of the way, because we've been talking about it. It's just coming back and correcting to the 50 EMA. I think it's going to be there. I just got through it. Finally got to the 50 EMA. So, you know, we do lose the 50 EMA, but it just generally holds as a support, which is why we showed the cloud. So again, it's not the worst position for us to be in. We just got to remember the move that we had here required us to come back to the 50 EMA. I've been talking about it since 3,600. It's obviously gone well past that, but that's where it is. BNB, tip your hat. It's flown up, made its all-time high, 1,083. Stopping vector candle potentially there as well. High test into this, drop back down, but again, it's actually only fallen to the 10 EMA. It's not exactly the biggest of drops to come back down. It's found a fairly decent bounce today. Not many altcoins are green today. This is one of them. The hype around Asta, which we've not talked about, and I don't know too much about it. That's been launched on Binance. I'm certainly sure it's helping to fuel this move up here. But Binance has done well. I still stand by the fact that as I said on Friday, I'd expect it to come back to the 50 EMA. We know that it does, but we talked about the 10 and the 20 being fine levels. We've already hit the 10 at 980, so maybe getting down as low as 950 if it stubbornly wants to avoid the 50 EMA. Solana's having a bit of a retest as well, but it's not got down to its 50 EMA yet at 210. So maybe a little bit more of a move, but I'd expect it to work its way back up after that. Of the majority of the altcoins, this has been by far the best performer of this cycle of the larger ones. People get excited about Ethereum, but it hasn't really done much. You know, it's moved from 1,000 to 4,000. Sol's gone from $8 to 300. I think we've got to give it its credit there. In terms of its move, and I still think it leads the way. Memes haven't quite caught on with it yet. Dominance we kind of already discussed. I'm not going to bother going into too many of these other smaller ones. You know, just alts are bleeding at the moment. Bitcoin's also bleeding. Stock market, gold and silver we kind of talked about. The rest are just sort of meandering around. Circle still correcting. I think this was probably just a move back up to the 50 before it comes back down. It seems to have been playing out quite nicely, that, so we'll have to wait and see. Any of the other ones that Taunu, just ranging sideways. I think that's probably it. I apologize, it's taken a little bit longer, but it's because I've rabbited on for far too long on that one. Trading Pub there will be on Thursday at 1 p.m. Just a reminder, the RT Christmas party, coming when in November it is. You need to book your tickets onto that one. I think you can bring a friend as well, but just contact Lewis. I think it's been opened up to the public already. So if you haven't made your mind up or you want to go but you haven't booked on, get booked on as quick as you can so you don't lose your free spot and end up ultimately having to pay for it. Bijan's asked me to talk about Wyckoff patterns, particularly with BitTensor, which he gave me about 5 minutes notice. So I'm going to do that on Friday with the charting call on Friday. So I'll have a look at that. I might post some stuff in Discord ahead of it. Charting call will probably be about 1 o'clock on Friday. Other than that, all to say is enjoy the rest of your weekend, or week, should I say, everybody. Just don't get too worried about price action as it is at the moment. We've got some more levels that we need to fall. I'm going to keep on digging about the moon cycles because I've started now and I didn't really give it that much. It was really scratched the surface. So yeah, feel free to have an open discussion with me in Discord about it. We'll see where it goes, but I'll probably just have it on my charts just going forward, just to show you how messy it actually is though. When you put it on with all of the others, it does look pretty, you can't, I will put the screen on for you. It does look pretty wild. Just so you can see why people turn it off. But anyway, that's it for me. Enjoy the rest of your evening and I will speak to you all soon. Cheers now.